Hi friend, thanks for joining me today. In today's tutorial, we're going to look at how saturation and distortion can boost your flat sounding patches and turn them into energetic ear candy in very simple steps. Let me know in the comments section what your favorite overdrive and plugins are, and if you're happy with the stock plugins in your DAW, or if you have a secret sauce plugin for distortion. In another video, I'll show you how using pedals and stomp boxes can give you a completely unique sound by breaking out of the box, and how to get some crazy distortion effects from guitar pedals. If you like what you see and want to know more, head to my website, Electronic Music Tips, using the link below for my free 6-step guide on how to create a song from start to finish that's full of pro tips and even includes a bonus chapter on mixing. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to the channel. It only takes a second and I'll love you for it. Overdrive and distortion has been the key ingredient in making recorded sound appear lively and exciting during the last century. Go back to an early rock and roll recording of Little Richard, James Brown, or even the Supremes, and you'll hear recordings of artists and engineers pushing the equipment to the edge of their capabilities, adding coloration and tonal artifacts in electrifying ways. Distortion in its many forms can add warmth and heft to digital audio signals, creating a more pleasant and warm tone by shaping a sound's characteristics. Overdrive and distortion comes in different intensities depending on how hot you drive the signal input into the overdrive effect. These can be separated into 3 general categories. The first one is overdrive. Overdrive is used to emulate the saturation that comes from driving tubes in an analog gear to the point of breaking up the signal. This overdriven sound is familiar to us as most electric guitar tones playing through an amp and effects pedal or preamp will create the grit and the bite that makes the electric guitar so exciting. This is the mildest of the 3 distortions and is used to add bulk to just about any signal and can make vocals, drums, and percussion and synths cut through a mix with extra weight. Overdrive also mellows high frequencies and can give your sound a more mellow or vintage sound. Distortion is the sound of rock and metal and has a more intense and in-your-face sound that can be used to toughen up lead lines and add texture to bass. Distortion is created by pushing an amplifier or piece of analog gear even further into the point of clipping, creating an organic buzz on top of your sound or instrument that appears as harmonic overtones. These harmonics can be used to add definition and presence and brighten up a dull or boring sound. The third of the overdrives is fuzz. Fuzz is the dirtiest of the 3 and offers up a hefty serving of saturation by clipping your sound almost to the point of squaring the waveform and sounds amazing on bass and synths. Fuzz also adds sustain to your sound, naturally adding resonance and stretching out notes with an energizing effect. Be sure to EQ after the fuzz to tame any unwanted harmonics or spiked frequencies. With any of the overdrives I just mentioned, the dynamic range is reduced in a way similar to compression, depending on how much of the effect is applied. With this in mind, overdrive can be used as an additive EQ and a mild compression effect by clipping the signal and adding harmonic overtones. By providing all this goodness, it's no wonder this has been used as a tool since we've been recording sound. While this sounds like a one-way ticket to awesomeness, it's likely that using it on more than a few instances in any mix will add up to a mess, with all the frequencies and space being used up by the extra texture. One way around this is to use parallel saturation. There's many ways to achieve distortion in the real world and inside your DAW, and the controls are basically the same either way. Here's a brief list of the way you can adjust your overdrive settings to taste. The drive knob increases the intensity of the distortion from overdrive to distortion and then to fuzz, and way beyond. The drive boosts the signal into the effect, which introduces distortion and harmonic overtones. The tone control is a simple high-cut filter, usually, that's used to remove any unwanted high frequencies that sound harsh or brittle. Some units also have a tone shaping control in the low end or mid frequencies to further sculpt the distortion to taste. Adjusting the mix level allows you to blend the overdriven signal with the clean signal or adjust the outgoing level after the overdrive effect is applied. At some point during the transition from analog to digital, we realized that our music was becoming sterile, clinical, and too pristine. In some ways, our music had lost the energy and the grit that made classic tracks stand out. Software manufacturers were quick to realize that our ears are trained to find distortion appealing and started releasing overdrive effects, allowing us to add this character back into our mix. Adding distortion to a mix will increase its apparent loudness without adding an increase in volume if the signal is matched to the pre-effects volume. Using parallel distortion will also allow you to blend the clean and overdriven sound, which is a killer vocal trick for adding energy without losing clarity and definition. And if you haven't tried it, chain a few overdrive or distortion effects together in series so that the different textures combine to create a wilder and more harmonic saturation. Don't forget to EQ between the overdrives to remove any frequency buildup or to sculpt the tone. The current obsession with vintage sounding recordings has brought a wide variety of tape emulation plugins to the market as a way of capturing the old school production techniques and sound. Tape saturation effects emulate the sound of a recording going to multi-track tape, just like it did back in the days of studio recording. Realistically, the entire signal chain was contributing to the saturated sound, from the sound of the preamps to the circuits in the console, and routing the track through various outboard effects, such as analog compressors and EQs. I've been lucky enough to experience recording in a studio a few times in my life, and although it's not practical or even necessary today, there is a level of excitement and professionalism generated by standing in a room with all of that analog gear and the hum of the fans and the smell of the transistors, all working towards your creative goals. The sound of legendary multi-track tape devices have been faithfully reproduced by UAD Audio and others. Saturation plugins are also included with most DAWs and can be highly effective in creating the imperfections and the vibe of tape without the expense and hassle of maintaining a vintage machine. Hey, so on this arpeggio that I've got, I put Ableton's fuzz machine on it. You can hear it without. The volume's matched. And it sounds good. The arpeggio sounds good. This is also Ableton's wavetable synth with the hypno arp setting on it. It sounded pretty cool. I made a couple of adjustments with the filter settings, and then I added 2 LFOs to automate the high pass and low pass cutoff frequencies. So it gives it some movement. And so I wanted to play around with maybe dirtying it up a little bit, adding a little bit of interest. So here's just the arpeggio with no fuzz. I'm going to kick it in a second. Okay, check this out. Hear how it adds a little bit of grit and high end. Yeah, we all know what overdrive does. This is no mystery, but it's such a good tool to bring interest and a bit of energy to a track. I really like what it does here. Of course, you can take it up, make it wild. Sounds good. Let's check it out once more in the breakdown. the low end here, seeing if it makes a difference. I like this. All right, cool. Okay, so I've got this stab on my track, and it's not really doing much. I like the note, and I like the rhythm that it's adding, the little groove. When I raise the volume of it, it's not doing very much. It's not coming through the way that I want. So I've got another effects chain here. This is the Ableton's Master Overdriven tape. Check out what it does to the track. Hear how it instantly jumps out, and that's not from like a mismatch of gains. That's all the frequencies coming out in the harmonics. You know, it's subtle, but it makes a huge difference. These overdrives, the saturation, it just makes a track completely come to life. You know, it can be overdone, of course. It's not something that you want to like blow out every single track. You're just going to end up with a muddy mess. But check this out again. I'll play it without, and then I'll play it with it. Okay, so that's without. Here it comes with it. So the last thing I wanted to show you is the tape saturation plugin that I use on my master bus. It's the UAD Ampex ATR 102. It's a classic tape emulation plugin by UAD. I like it because it's easy. Basically, I just use the tape presets that are available. I don't get too involved with customizing the EQ and stuff. I find that the presets are actually pretty good, and all you have to do is adjust the type of tape, the tape speed per inches, and then the tape type 1 inch, half inch, or quarter inch. Quarter inch is really bass heavy, especially when you've got it on the GP9 setting. I like to make it a little bit more neutral, less aggressive in the low end, because it really starts to build up, especially when you add gain. So the whole point of this is to find the sweet spot of where you're getting some overdrive and saturation, hitting the tape emulation, like what would have done back in the days of old when people were using tape. And that's essentially, you want it to hit the red line, the 0 decibels on this. It can go over a bit, it can be under a bit, but your average is roughly around 0. And then that way you'll get a good balance of somewhat overdriven, but not too overdriven. It'll be the sweet spot. This is probably way too hot. Let's see when it comes in. Okay. It's adding a little bit of gain there, a little bit of volume. Anywhere around there. I'm not too fussy. I like it because it brings out a little bit of overdrive, brings up some of the tones, a little bit more of the subtler parts. Because the tape emulation is meant to also add some subtle compression, just like a tape machine. A reel-to-reel tape recorder back in the day. It would have gone through the transistor and the electronics, and when it went to tape, because tape is a medium, there's only so much bandwidth. It would provide slight compression to heavy compression. You can blast this pretty bad, and if that's the effect you're going for, great. Otherwise, keep it at just so it's hitting zero, like I said. Hopefully that'll help you with your mix bus. This is just a rough mix setting that I have, just for, I guess, if you're interested, if you want to know. I've also got a couple of other compressors on it. Again, mostly dialed into just kissing the zero, adding a slight bit of compression, not a lot. So the meter's barely moving off of zero. The sweet spot. That way you're not squashing your track, but it's adding the flavor of the compressor. Same as the beautiful LA2A. Again, just kissing the compressor. Oh, it sounds kind of nice. And I just lowered the threshold just a little bit to get a little bit of compression out of this. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough and found it helpful. Don't forget to leave a comment and let me know what your favorite overdrive or distortion is and how you use it. And be sure to head to my website using the link below to get my free 6-step guide. Bye for now, friend.